It's no secret that the internet is fit to burst with the amount of strange and unexplained videos that surface every day. We've become so numb to the norm created by these videos that nothing crawls under our skin like it used to. We search for the ever-diminishing high of being afraid, of being so dumbfounded by what's on screen that we question the limits of reality. Maybe I'm being too dramatic, but for me, these videos have become so mundane that I no longer get anything from them. I just sit in front of my computer, resting my chin in the palm of my hand, just looking for a rush. Deep into the night, I watch the same formulaic scene playing out over and over. Grainy and poor quality videos, capturing something slipping off into the woods or a spectral figure crossing between two doors. It's 2020, how are there no high quality pictures or footage of the things that used to scare us? It's almost like Bigfoot became privy to the advances of technology and got better at hiding. What's worse than not being scared was losing my wonder. I started realizing how fake so many of these videos were, and even the ones that were done well seemed easy enough to question their validity, so I began to doubt the existence of anything that used to keep me up those nights. Aliens, ghosts, monsters. If the videos were all fake in an age where everyone is streaming or has $800 phones, then maybe they just weren't real. Moving away from videos, I started traversing forums to see if anyone was feeling the way I was feeling, to see if anyone had something that could spark that light of creativity again. What was sparked was curiosity. Now and then on different sites, I would see mention of a website that contained unsettling content. Not the gory kind you would find on something like LiveLeak, but videos that were extraordinary and unusual. Needless to say, I became hooked on the idea of finding this website. I would message anyone who made even a passing mention of it for details. No one ever offered me information, only replying that if I kept looking for it, I'll find it eventually. I asked specifically if it was a dark web type thing, knowing that's a hub for a bunch of strange content. All the people I asked confirmed that it wasn't. It was on the surface. Somewhere a website hosting a treasure trove of odd videos was waiting for me. I couldn't understand why no one would just link me to the site or describe the video. The best information I got was it's just a matter of chance, and that my chance was increased by actively seeking it out. And that's about all I could do. To find it, I had to look for it, which sounds easy enough, but by God, did it take forever. My Google search history must look absolutely manic. I would search for some strange keywords and then immediately dive into the later pages of the search. I figured a site like that wouldn't be sitting within the first few pages of results. I just remember being told that I would know I was in the right place when I got there. Days went by, and while I did stumble across several intriguing things, I always felt the sites weren't it. And then with sleep-deprived eyes and weary fingers, I found what I believed to be the website others were speaking about. It became clear pretty quickly why no one was able to directly link me to the site, as the URL remained blank. Even searching for the same term in Google failed to get me back to the site, like it had shifted its place after I found it. The page itself was blank as well, nothing but a large black screen. Not knowing what to do, I moved my mouse to the empty URL and highlighted it to see if the text was hidden somehow. After highlighting the area, some text popped up in the URL space. It read, "Video." Doing the only logical thing I could think of, I simply put the number 1 after the new URL text, and then a video began to occupy the once dark web page. It was a video of someone streaming. They didn't have any viewers, but they sat in their room talking to the camera. Nothing really seemed off about it. The room was well lit and the streamer didn't look like anything out of the average. I watched him talk about his day for a minute or two. Again, he didn't mention anything odd. Then there was a large bang off camera that caught his attention. He looked towards what I could only assume was his bedroom door. I could hear the click of the door opening, realizing he mentioned earlier that he lived alone. He looked visibly concerned, the hair on his head ruffled from the pressure of the door swinging open. His chest started to heave looking at something off screen. His voice was quivering through chattering teeth. He repeated, "What the fuck?" over and over like his brain was skipping. Starting to rise out of his chair, he started asking what the thing off camera was, screaming at the top of his lungs as he started backing up. Turning his head to the camera, I could see tears running down his cheek. His eyes were distant, like they were broken or he couldn't come to terms with what he was seeing. And just there, at the climax, the stream ended and the webpage returned to darkness. I sat there for a moment looking at the dark screen. I played the video once again, trying to find something recognizable. Surely a clip like this would have spread around. It was just so weird. It seemed so genuine too. I'm not sure how I would react to certain situations, but the streamer looked like they had seen something no one ever expects to see. After collecting myself, I realized that I had found that high I was looking for. The video was just so bizarre and off-putting that my skin was starting to crawl, thinking of what the streamer might have seen just off camera. I found myself angry that the stream didn't continue long enough to get a look. But with my newfound source of horror, I started going through one video after another. I was afraid if I clicked off the site I wouldn't be able to find it again, or that it would take days of searching again. I sure as hell couldn't bookmark it. Not all the videos were all that scary to me. A lot of times they were just what looked like home videos. People doing average things, although in a way that unsettled me too. I felt like an outside observer and was uncomfortable with the voyeurism. Sometime I would notice little things in the background of these videos though, so all of them may have something going on and I just failed to notice. Like with video 26, it was just a guy in his late teens sitting on his bed practicing guitar. He was a beginner and the odd twangs of misplayed notes filled my room. With the guy sitting on the bed, I could see the window behind him. For a brief moment, no more than a few frames, it seems like the bright blue sky shifts deep green and then back to blue. I barely picked up on it, and maybe it's nothing, but it was an oddity in the video nonetheless, so it made me a little more observant of the backgrounds. Some videos, however, it was all too clear what I was supposed to be looking at. Subtly went out of the window on videos like video 14. It was a dark room with one source of buzzing light casting down on a man laying on a concrete floor. He was shirtless and panting heavily. I could see dark spots under him where sweat or tears had stained the gray floor. Hunched over on his knees and forearms, he kept telling someone off camera that he told them everything he knew. This went on for a moment and then the man said, "Please don't do it again." Just as his sentence dissipated into the air, I saw his right arm start to lift up and then violently jerk backward. The sound of bones cracking and the man's shrill cry of pain caused me to nearly fall out of my chair. The joint of his shoulder and elbow completely failed him, and the back of his hand slapped his spine. I know some people can do that, but judging by the anguish on his face, I don't think he was one of them. He collapsed to the floor, no longer screaming. I could see his joints bulging underneath his skin as his body was dragged off screen. The whole time I watched him, nothing made contact with his person. The ease of which his arm bent the wrong way, it was so swift with no hesitation, like someone just willed it to be. The video ended, but I could still hear his screaming in my ear. Luckily, some of the more mundane videos played after that one, like the site was giving me a break. Some of the videos were just bizarre. Obviously all the videos were bizarre, but there were some stands out that caused me to stop and think. For example, video 79. Yes, I watched a lot of them. They were so interesting and I just couldn't help myself. Anyways, video 79 starts with a man walking into the water from the beach. The sky is gray and cloudy and I don't hear anything other than the crashing waves and his mumbling. The waves get louder as he walks further out, the water ever rising around him, but I start to pick up what he's saying. Over and over again he's repeating, "It's 1879. He just keeps mumbling that into the camera he's holding as the water rises around him. It's 1879. It's 1879. It's 1879. His voice starts to bubble when the water reaches his lips. A few brief times the water dips under the murky green water. I had to watch the video over and over as there was no way to pause it, but I could swear when the camera dipped under the water, I could see the silhouettes of buildings, tall skyscrapers hiding under the ocean's surface. It looked like New York, but just as the camera dips a final time, the video ends with one last, "It's 1879. I began to wonder if some of the videos were connected somehow when I played video 80. It saw a naval officer being filmed on a large boat. I'm terrible with military stuff. It was some kind of aircraft carrier though. There was a ton of chatter around the boat as the camera followed the officer who was maintaining a brisk pace. As he reached the edge of the ship, a few of his crew members motioned for him to hurry up, to which he replied by asking what was going on. As he reached the edge of the ship, the camera looked out at the sea. Panning further down, there was a shadow under the water. It was long and prominent against the crystal blue. The mumbling around the officer began to increase as the shadow began to grow in size. The officer began shouting for everyone to get to a safe station, to brace themselves. It wasn't hard to tell that what was causing the dark spot was rising to the surface, that once it reached the surface, it was going to be massive, likely thicker than the carrier. As the operator of the camera panned up to start running away from the edge, I saw very briefly a man standing on the water facing the boat. Then the video ends. It's a common theme that the videos end right before the climax, but not all of them follow this rule. Like video 44, this video is possibly the most graphic one I saw out of the bunch, and it's also one of the shorter ones. There are two people on camera, and whoever is controlling the camera. The two on screen are girls that look fairly young, early teens maybe, and judging by the voice of the cameraman, he was around their age. The one girl mentioned that her mother told her not to stay past sundown. As the cameraman filled the trees around them, he was telling the girl to relax, and all the rumors were full of shit. The other girl laughed, but it was a nervous laugh. They walked briefly before their progress was interrupted by a large snap. It sounded like a tree had fallen. Then one of the girls asked, "What are those?" The camera panned in the direction, and in the distance were soft glowing amber lights, like aggressive fireflies. The camera pans back to the girl just as her legs are swept out from under her and she falls to the floor. Before she can muster a whimper, her body is lifted by a thick, dark shadow and tossed aside. She was thrown with such force that when she hit a nearby tree, it looked like I think she was torn in half at the torso. It was hard to see as the motion was so quick and it was so dark, but her shadow that was once whole split into two and tumbled through the trees. The other girl watched in horror as her friend experienced cell division mere feet from here. Without any time to process what had happened or start running, that same tendril bore through the girl's chest. The weak light of the camera showed her injury in harsh detail. The end of the tendril seemed to be sprouting branches from the small pockets of blood that rested on the dark and slimy surface. The girl turned her head slowly, and I recognized a familiar amber glow starting to ignite in her eyes. The boy dropped the camera when they locked eyes. I could hear him attempting to flee, but his footsteps suddenly stopped and the video went black. The video after that, video 45, was just people dancing in a club. It was such a strange shift in tone. They just kept dancing, and while this one didn't have anything too bizarre in it, I thought I could see the people moving around would occasionally have something protruding from their skin as they were dancing. At least, I thought they were dancing. The video goes to black before anything happens though. There are a lot of videos on this site, way too many to go over them all at once, and I don't even know if I reached the end. I fell asleep after watching video 121, and when I woke up my computer had gone into sleep and the page was gone. Video 120 was a woman holding her phone up to a mirror while she reached into her mouth. She started to pull her hand back, and as she did, a thin strand started to be revealed. She was making retching noises and she continued pulling. She had her arm almost stretched out in front of her, still pulling the thing out. Then it seemed to wriggle and in an instant seemed to retreat into her mouth, causing her to vomit in the sink. I heard the woman angrily exclaim, "Fuck this," before reaching for a knife resting on the white sink. Then, of course, the video cuts. These are just some of the videos that stuck out to me. If I could direct you to the place I would, even I'm having trouble finding it again. I'm not sure if any of these are real, but I can confidently say I've never seen them anywhere but this site. The reactions and looks of everything feel so real. Even now, a lot of what I saw I'm struggling to shake. If I find it again and see more, maybe I'll be back. And if I can find a way to get a path to the site, I'll be back. But for now, I leave you with one more video that stuck with me. Video 57. The video starts with a man walking through an empty house. No furniture or anything, only a bleak green carpet lining the floors of each room. He would look out the windows he passed by but wouldn't point the camera out there. I watched him get increasingly frantic as he started running room to room. Each look out the window seemed to break him a little more. Eventually, he ran to the front door and with a trembling hand unlocked it. Swinging the door open, the source of his concern became alarmingly clear. A crowd of plain gray mannequins lifted their heads to meet his gaze. There were so many that I could barely see any of the front yard, just shoulder-to-shoulder mannequins. His breath was rapid and harsh right against the camera. He started screaming at the scene before him, almost in defiance. He kept egging them on, telling them to get it over with. And when he'd had enough of the motionless figures, he slammed the door shut. Turning around to face the rest of the house, something caused him to drop his phone. It landed face down on the carpet, showcasing the dark green. I heard a struggle and the shuffling of feet filling the house. Then the camera was picked up, plain gray fingers laced around it, bending at visible plastic joints. The thing manipulating the camera pointed it at the man that was being pinned down by the figures. I was waiting for it to cut to black like I had seen so many times before, but instead I watched as a horde of mannequins hovered over the man and started to peel away at him. He was screaming and trying to fight against it, telling them he didn't want to go back. As they ripped at his flesh, I was surprised at the lack of gore, no blood or bone. As they ripped his face apart, all I saw was a plain gray shell underneath, and then the video cuts to black. It's something I have no idea what to make of. The amount of production that would have been necessary to do whatever the hell that was. I couldn't find anything like it. That goes for most of the videos. I'm not sure why these videos only make it to this site, why we aren't seeing them on YouTube or any other platform. Hell, I don't know anything about this. All I know is it offered me a high I hadn't ever felt before, and filled me with a dread I don't think I'll ever shake. The feeling of something out there beyond me always gnawing at the back of my neck. As conflicted as I am, I'll search for that high until I find it again. I have to know what else is out there. How many videos are there? What is video 121? For my money, I can only conclude that the things I saw on that site were real. Maybe I wasn't supposed to see them. All I know is I have to find that place again.